Hey guys, what is up? My name is Brienne and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm coming at you with a book review. So today's book review is going to be on the book They Both Die in the End by Silvera. And this book was published back in 2017 by Harper Teen's publication. So just a quick overview of the book. The plot of it basically follows this character Mateo and Rufus throughout their day, and it starts off with both Mateo and Rufus getting a call from the company Deathcast that can tell you when you're going to die that day, saying that today was their death day. And so through the whole book you're following them trying to live an entire lifetime in one night, and it's just such a sweet and romantic book, but it also comes across as more of a coming of age story as well. And as I read this book, I found that there were a lot of lessons that the author was trying to get across to the reader, and I liked specifically the ones where it's more of a broad lesson, such as live every day like it's your last, but at the same time hope for tomorrow. So in a way, it's telling you you should always do your best at everything and do as much as you can, but you can always hope for an even better tomorrow. So even if you're having a bad day, tomorrow could be better, but you have to live today like it's the best day. And then I also liked the lesson about family, and you get that more on Rufus's side than you do Mateo's. So Rufus's family died in a car crash and drowned in a river, and he was the only one to make it out alive. And so in the home that he's living in now, he has made the people around him and his friends his family, and I like the lesson of your family isn't just blood, it's the people who are there for you when you're at your lowest. And throughout the novel, I found that my favorite aspects of the book were more so of Mateo being able to break out of his shell, because he starts off as a very introverted person and scared to do so many things, and then by the end he's just such an open person, and he's so brave, and he does so much throughout his last day. And along with that, I really liked the progression of the relationship between Rufus and Mateo, because it never specifies that that's what's going to happen between the two of them in the synopsis, but it comes as a welcome surprise and you slowly start to see it throughout the entire book. But it's also really sad because once Mateo is emotionally attached to Rufus, they're in his house and they're sleeping, and then he gets up to make some tea for them before they go to see Mateo's dad for the last time, and he forgets that the stove is broken, and that's how he dies. And so it's really heartbreaking for Rufus and the readers, but I think that was a solid way of tying in that little fact that's mentioned in the beginning of the book. And I wonder if he had just let his neighbor fix it that day while he was out, if he would have actually died. Because if he didn't die, Rufus wouldn't have died that day either, because Rufus only dies after Mateo because he's not paying attention as he crosses the street from the hospital. And so, I don't know, I really wish that they both lived and the title had been ironic and they had been the two to survive Deathcast's call, but they weren't, and it's kind of depressing. But as a whole, the novel is amazing, and it does so many different things with so many different relationships and aspects of life. It is one of my favorite books by now. And if I'm speaking honestly about the book, I think the only thing that I would have changed about it is the fact that both Mateo and Rufus die at the end, and I get that that's the title and that was the plan the entire time and you know it going in, but there is just such hope and potential for both of the characters if they survived, and I can't help but see that and want to see that happen for them and see and hope that there's just a chance that they'll live and that they'll make it out of this without dying. Now, we're going to get into one of my favorite parts of this. I am going to be giving you guys some of my absolute favorite quotes that I've picked out. Not all of these are going to be read out loud, so I do recommend reading the book itself, and this might end up being a more spoilery part of the video, so if you do not want to hear some of the quotes, I will put the timestamp for when the quotes are done in the description below, or you could just skip ahead. So there was this part in the very first chapter that I liked where Mateo was thinking, and he's talking about the people he's going to miss, and this section right here is one of my absolute favorites. It says, "The number one person I'll miss the most is future Mateo, who maybe loosened up and lived. It's hard to picture him clearly, but I imagine future Mateo trying out new things like smoking pot with friends, getting a driver's license, and hopping on a plane to Puerto Rico to learn more about his roots. Maybe he's dating someone, and maybe he likes that company. He probably plays piano for his friends, sings in front of them, and he would definitely have a crowded funeral service, one that would stretch over an entire weekend after he's gone. One where the room is packed with new people who didn't get a chance to hug him one last time." And I think that's really touching, the fact that he realizes that he's never going to get to be that person, and that's the person that he truly wants to be, but he's never had the chance to be yet. So this quote here is in a conversation that Mateo is having with somebody on the Last Friends app, and they are not actually a person who is going to die that day, but I just found this kind of intriguing that even in this world, people are finding ways of being even more insensitive than they really could have been. And this guy is telling Mateo that he has the secret on how to live. And this is what he says. "You seem like a cool guy who doesn't deserve to die, so you should come over to my apartment. It'll have to be a secret though, but I have the cure to death in my pants." So even in this world, there are people who like to objectify others, and that is not a settling thought, that even in a world that doesn't exist, there is that kind of nature, and I wish there wasn't. I wish everything was just calmer and everyone was polite to each other and understood that you can't be like that to people. The first part of this book that I actually got any sort of hint that Rufus and Mateo might end up being love interests for each other is this quote right here, and the only reason I saw it like that is because I'm used to the banter that goes on between love interests and how that just pulls them closer. So this chapter, from Rufus's point of view, isn't even a full page, and it says, "I'm biking toward that kid Mateo's house. He better not be a serial killer, or so help me. Nah, he's chill. It's obvious he spends way too much time in his head and is probably too antisocial for his own damn good. I mean, check this. I'm legit gonna pick him up from his house like he's a prince stuck in a high tower in need of rescuing. And I know that's not banter back and forth between Mateo and Rufus, but it's just the way he thinks about him, and thinking about Mateo as a prince who is stuck in a high tower just reminds me of fairy tales where one falls for the other after rescuing them, or they have to go rescue the love of their life from a tower. Either way, I found that really sweet, and I liked that introduction to their kind of relationship. The next quote that I really liked kind of jumps forward a decent amount in the book, but it's while Mateo and Rufus are at the hospital visiting Mateo's dad for the first time the night. And Mateo is telling Rufus about this story his dad would tell him about how him and his mother got engaged. So it says, "My mother turned him down twice. He said she liked playing hard to get. Then she found out she was pregnant with me. And he got down on one knee in the bathroom and she smiled and said yes." So I really enjoyed this quote just for the simple fact of it's just a little nostalgia, and it's not as depressing. It just shows a lighter side of both his dad that we don't actually get to interact with very much, and his mother, who we don't see in the book at all because she is already passed. Finally, after Mateo and Rufus leave the hospital, they decide to go to Mateo's best friend's house, Lydia, to see her, and this is just how he thinks about his best friend, and I absolutely love it. It's such a sweet nod towards friendship that could last an entire lifetime. And it says, "I think my best friend glows even brighter than before because she's been through a change, an evolution that many can't handle, and she's done it solo." And that's just referring to how she ended up dropping out of high school, getting her GED, and raising her child alone because the father died. And then it goes a while without any sort of nod towards a romance between Mateo and Rufus. And then on page 207, on a chapter from Rufus's point of view, they're on a train and the lights had gone out and Mateo had fallen asleep on Rufus's shoulder. And this paragraph here is something that I really found so cute, and it's just so adorable. And it says, "I gotta take a photo of Mateo sleeping. That sounds creepy, no shit, but I gotta immortalize this dreamy look on his face. That doesn't sound any less creepy shit. In the moment too, it's the moment too I want. How often do you find yourself on a train that's having a blackout with an 18-year-old kid and his Lego house as he's on his way to the cemetery to visit his mother's headstone?" Exactly. That's Instagram worthy. And I don't know. I just thought it was cute that he, even in the darkness of the train and the panic that should be in him, he took the time to notice Mateo. And many people don't do that. But the fact that he noticed him and noticed how he looked and how calm he was something completely different that I really enjoyed seeing. And this next quote is from Mateo's point of view, and it's one of the first times you really see Mateo's romantic interest in Rufus. And they're talking about how Mateo's dad explained what love was to him. And it says that love is a superpower we all have, but it's not always a superpower I'd be able to control, especially as I get older. Sometimes it'll go crazy and I shouldn't be scared if my power hits someone I'm not expecting it to. My face is warm, and I wish I had the superpower of common sense because this isn't something I should have ever said out loud. That was stupid. Sorry. Rufus smiles and stops. Nah, I liked that. Thanks for that story, Super Mateo. And the fact that Rufus comes back and catches on to those feelings but doesn't make the move because he wants Mateo to, is just really cute and sweet. And after a while, there was just a chunk where I had marked a few things, but they weren't really quotes that I liked. But this one I really wanted to share because it's just a simple description of when Mateo and Rufus actually kiss. And it's just one sentence, but I really liked it and I thought it was really heartwarming the way it was described. And it says, "I kissed the guy who brought me to life on the day we're going to die." And that's from Mateo's point of view. So Mateo being able to say that about something truly shows the change that Mateo is going through on this day. Alrighty, so that was all of my favorite quotes from the book. Definitely not all the quotes that I do have marked, but those were my absolute favorites. And I just wanted to say that my absolute favorite part of the book is how all of the different perspectives end up connecting at some point and they make sense. Because I know some authors like to put the different perspectives in there just to change it up and give a longer, flowy story. But this one, every person you met played an important role in what was happening. You meet the two people who call Rufus and Mateo for death casts. You meet one of the death casters' girlfriends who got the call. You meet a guy who blows up the gym that almost kills them. You meet the guy that Mateo gave his shoes to, who you don't realize is actually in Peck's gang. And then you get to see from Peck's point of view, and he ends up being Rufus's ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend, who they were beating up when he got the call from Death Cat. Alrighty, so those were all of my thoughts on the book. They both die at the end. I actually gave it a 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and it really changed the way I thought. So I would definitely recommend reading this book. Anyone and everyone should read it. It opens your eyes to a lot of different things that most people don't see or realize at first. And it's so sweet and there's so much humor in it, but it's also a really emotional read. That was it for today's video, guys. Let me know down in the comment section below if you have read this book or if you plan to read it now, or any books that have really changed your opinions and how you think. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.